Good day and welcome to a day on China Outbound Tourism. I'm Jan Larsen and I'm the CEO of BUZZ.travel. This event today is a co-production between COTRI and BUZZ.travel. COTRI, that is Professor Dr. Arlt and his team. COTRI is responsible for the concept and for the content of this event. BUZZ is responsible for the logistics, the technology and the team behind. There are two reasons for the event of today. First of all, we want to celebrate that Wolfgang Arlt is launching a new book on China Outbound Tourism. We will hear more about that today. And secondly, we would like to see today's event as a warm-up for a China trade show, which BUZZ and GITF will launch in September. GITF, that is Gaochang International Tourism Fair. That will be a trade show for 5 days, keynotes, virtual booths, and we have technologies to facilitate one-to-one meetings between sellers and buyers. Some of you may have seen our last trade show. The trade show in September, China Summit we call it, will be in the same format. However, we will have optimized a few things here and there. And as I said, it will be a joint production between GITF and BUZZ. A few words on BUZZ, if I may. BUZZ is a closed community, a social network for verified travel professionals. If I put it a bit simple and simplify a bit too much, it's a mix between LinkedIn and Facebook, but as I said, only for verified travel professionals. And to that community, we have added a few functionalities. Why do I emphasize closed community and why do I emphasize travel professionals? A few have asked, why do I need to upload a photo, a personal photos, and why do you guys need time to verify my profile? The answer is, BUZZ is a high quality network for verified professionals, for real travel professionals. And when you join and when you reach out to your colleagues, your peers on the platform, we want to make sure that you meet real people, no fake profiles, no dead profiles. You meet people, good people with the same intentions as you. We cannot guarantee that you'll have a good communication when you reach out, but the likelihood is much better if we have verified people and if you meet people with a picture that you know whom you're talking to. BUZZ is the place where travel professionals meet to socialize, promote their services, their products, seek and find, and get information. We have a lot of members who have said that we've given us feedback, have said that their business have picked up since they are active on BUZZ. And here the key word is active. BUZZ is an instrument and an instrument does not do any good if it isn't used actively. So when you join BUZZ, please make sure you have a good informative profile, promote, post, reach out to other people, and then hopefully that will help your business as well. Besides the community side, we have a few platforms. We have a platform for fam trips. We have a platform for discounted travel industry trips. We have a so-called marketplace where you can post anything from jobs to the last free hotel rooms for next Christmas. These marketplaces are of course not as active as they could be in these Corona times. We hope it will come later. We will, going forward, make events like this on a regular basis. We will also make virtual trade shows as the one we did, as the one we are planning on China. And if anybody of you are sitting, having good ideas, reach out to us. Some events will be done on our own. Some events will be joint events with other people. We have invested in the technology, as I said. We have the team, so we are very open to discuss mutual events. We went to the market about a year ago. We did that after almost 2.5 years of developing our own software. And today we have about 5,000 members after a year. And it's not, you can't do that linear. The most members have come the last 6 months. We expect to multiply these 5,000 members by a factor of 8 to 12 in the next 18 months. One last remark, there is no connection to Google Analytics or anything. Your data in your join stays with BUZZ and stays with us. safely. So these are the words for the people joining on Zoom and so forth, YouTube. We hope to see a lot of you on BUZZ the next days, the next weeks. Wolfgang, you are the man now.
Okay, so Jan, thank you very much for the introduction to BUZZ, and thank you very much for the cooperation and for all the hard work which has been done by you and your team in the last weeks. So I'm very happy that it seems all the panelists are here, and I will introduce them to you in a minute. So what I first want to do is to show you the program of the event quickly, and then we will have a short presentation on how the situation is from the way we are seeing it. And as Jan has been mentioning, of course, in the book we are celebrating today what is the content of that, in a few points of that. And then we will start the first panel. And I have to say that Dr. O'Helly from the European Parliament is so kind also to join us, but so he has already told me that as he is a really busy man, that he will speak first, and then I think he has to go on to other activities. But of course, he is one of our heroes in Europe, putting forward tourism. So, and I'm very happy that he can do that. Let me tell you quickly about the program for today. So after the introduction we just had, I will speak briefly about welcoming the new Chinese outbound travelers. And then we will have the first panel, which is looking more from the demand side. So what do the post-virus travelers from China look for now? What has changed in their demand? And for this panel, we will have Istvan from the European Parliament. And I'm very happy to have Xu Jing here. So I remember 5 years ago, we had a very nice webinar already together. And of course, also, I'm very happy to have Dean Kate Chon, who is the Dean of the most successful faculty for tourism and hotel management, and our partner in the online training program CTT we have developed together. We have Roger Chiu, also an old friend who for most of you will know in his former role working for C-Trip. Now he is working for Value Retail. And we have Matej Ritter, who is working for Budapest Airport. So, and we will have at the end, there will be a Q&A. So if you have questions, please use the chat function you will find at the bottom of your page to ask questions. So then we will have a presentation by Rebecca Bear, who is working for Planet. And so there are some new developments in the combination of payment systems with value-added tax refund, and she will give us an update on that before having the second panel, which will be looking from the supply side and the question how to prepare for the post-virus customers from China and how to use the new paradigm we are trying to develop for successful business. And for this, we have, I'm happy to say in the second panel, it's not only men, we have also some ladies here. So first we have David Cleary from EPIC Irish Immigration Museum. We have Nicolette Todd from Budapest Airport. We have Rebecca from Planet, and Gazi Haxia. I hope he has successfully joined by now. He is one of the biggest, and for China, probably the biggest tour operators in the Balkans. And we have Samantha Marsland from Manchester Airport Group, and Anders Edelman Christensen, also old friend of COTRI. He is the general manager of Albatross, has been living in China for many, many years. And again, we have a Q&A. And then at the end, so don't go away, we have a lucky draw, and we will give away 3 copies of our new ebook, Welcoming the New Chinese Outbound Tourists, Guest Relationships with Chinese Visitors in the 2020s. And at the end, of course, it's for the host, for Jan Larsen from BUZZ, to say the final words. So this is a program. I hope you have time to join. Let me say that this is also live streamed now on Facebook and YouTube. And if for some reason you can't follow the whole event, this of course will be also put on the YouTube channel, so you can also look at it later on. Even so, of course, I hope you can join and stay with us now. So brief introduction very quickly, about who's talking to you. So I've been working with China for many, many years. My first visit to China was actually 1978, when it looked quite different from today. And I've been a tour operator, and I've been, until a few months ago, a professor for international tourism management, and yeah, as you can see, working in a couple of other functions, including being a member of the WTO expert panel and being a fellow of the International Association of China Tourism Studies in Guangzhou, and some others. What is COTRI doing? Well, in a nutshell, COTRI is trying to help people outside of China, and companies and organizations and governments outside of China, to make Chinese travelers happy and to earn money in the process, and to develop the own country or the own company in a sustainable way in the process. That is probably enough. And as I just mentioned, so we have, I think, an important tool for this is an online training called China Tourism Training. We are offering together with the Hong Kong Polytechnic University School of Hotel and Tourism Management, which is organized in 5 different verticals, and so it is certainly something you should look at. And so, looking at the situation as it is today. So first of all, the reasons why the Chinese have been traveling so much in the past have not changed. And all the surveys are saying that the Chinese are very eager to come back onto the international market once it becomes possible again. And domestically, we can see that actually in China, tourism is in full swing again. So you can see the picture. We had more than 100 million trips only in the first week of May, which was a holiday week. And for the Dragon Boat Festival now in June, we had within 3 days 80 million people traveling again. So China is probably the country in the world now with the highest number of domestic tourists. So just on one slide, some trends and how have they been influenced by the current situation. So the green ones are the ones which are continuing and will continue in the future, namely a further segmentation of the Chinese outbound tourism source market, more customized and self-organized tours. And in the interviews with all the panelists who are also in the book, I think everybody agreed that this is a trend which will go on. We see a movement from quantity, trying to put as much content into a trip as possible, to quality, to have deeper experiences and slow down a bit. We have the trend that more and more information is available, both from direct experience, but also, of course, from media and from advertisements and so on, from PR. And we see, and this again has been pushed forward by the lockdown, that the use of technology, the use of cashless payment, for instance, it has been increasing even more in China. What we saw in the last few years was that there was a development that many countries opened their doors wider for Chinese visitors, that they didn't need a visa at all, or they could get a visa on arrival or an e-visa and so on. And more air connections were open up. When we will talk about this, certainly we have airports representatives on our panels. And this, of course, it has been going backward now, and that will be maybe something we can talk about. How long you think it will take before we are back to the situation we were at the end of 2019? And the last point, well, I can tell you when we made this plan, when to publish a book, when to have the seminar, we hoped, that was maybe 3 months ago, we hoped that by the beginning of August, we are more or less back in a situation where the Chinese outbound tourists have already started to travel again. But well, as we all know, the virus is not going away as fast as we all have hoped for. And so it seems now that actually it will be a vaccine and a treatment we have to wait for, because people get really in big numbers confident to travel. But again, this is something we will have to discuss. So what we're saying is that there is a need for a new paradigm, because we had this before the virus already, a lot of problems with over-tourism, climate change, and so on. So and I think in all the discussions in the last months, people have been agreeing, yes, things have to change for global tourism. And as 1 out of 8 international travelers is a Chinese, that has to include Chinese tourists as well. And so looking beyond the period where hygiene and sanitation is playing an important role, how can we change this, and how also can we change our attitudes towards the new interests, especially of Chinese tourists, on family, nature, more authentic experiences, and a higher demand for trust and satisfaction. And also something which is often forgotten, it's not only the customers who have to be happy and the company who have to have enough money in the till. You also need to have happy staff, and you need happy locals, and we all know that in the past this has not always been the case. So we all have been a bit optimistic, and on the left-hand side, so WTO published this graph half a year ago saying we are the most resilient economic sector. Turned out this is not really the case, and in terms of change management, to be prepared for things like that, well, we find now that we had to improvise a lot. And you see now the latest forecast from WTO from June is speaking quite a different language than what was said just half a year before. And some people have been saying this has been a black swan event, so something you can't predict. But actually, probably it is better to prepare to describe it as a gray rhino, which is another term which has been used in the literature. So as an economic risk that is there, and well, we had a lot of warnings. We had the swine flu, we had Ebola, and so on. So, and it was not the question, will we ever have a pandemic, but just the question, when will it happen? But it seems that there was not enough preparation for that. And also, it's not only the virus, of course, it is also that we can see that the number of trips have increased 5 times in the last 40 years. But the way tourism is organized has not changed that much. And so the increasing force of tourism for good, create jobs, but also for bad, to really be destructive, has not been really met with enough new policies. And I'm sure Istra will talk about this, that also for instance, in Europe, we are still lacking a clear tourism policy. The Chinese have often been named as a culprit, so that they, because, well, if they travel in the group, they stick out so that that there are the culprits for over tourism. And also from our surveys, we always found that Chinese travelers are thinking, oh, we are walking wallets, so they like us when they come and pay money, but they don't really like us as persons, and we feel a bit second level treated. And so therefore, the first step is very simply that if we welcome the Chinese tourists by trying harder to understand them and not saying all Chinese are the same, and by accepting that they are diverse and that they are different people. Of course, there are, when they are traveling, they will be reminded of their Chinese-ness more than they are inside China, but still they are obviously different people, and nobody would think that I'm a German, yes, but we have an intern working here. She is a 25-year-old German. We are not the same people. We are not having the same demands when we go traveling. So for Chinese, surprise, surprise, it is exactly the same. So, and yes, for the short and medium range, we have to concentrate on sanitation, on hygiene, on washing our hands, on wearing masks, and all that. But I think we have to look forward, and we have to find a way how to organize a win-win-win-win situation, and that means a better development for guests, for hosts, for staff, companies, and of course also for, at the end, for the planet. And one of the approaches I think we can clearly see as a way forward is to have closer guest relations and to move away from spending all the money on social media marketing and moving from KOLs, key opinion leaders, towards KOCs, key opinion customers. And this, I think, is one element we have to look for. So this is just a quick example. The company Dragon Trail, social media marketing company, publish every week how have the NTOs and the DMOs and airlines and so on been working on their Weibo and their Wechat accounts. And well, I will not go into detail, but what you can see is that a lot of money is spent on this very nicely done posts, but if you reach not even 3,000 people in a country like China, this is simply not enough. And it is simply, if you look at something like Melbourne, has 1 million followers on Weibo, but only 250 people look at 7 posts. So that cannot be the best way to spend your money. And if you analyze it deeper, you can see those companies or DMOs who are successful are often successful because they have a giveaway, they have a lucky draw, or they give away some stuff. So this is bringing more people, but not necessarily more visitors to your country. And so in Wechat, it's not really different. So you can see that out of 84 DMOs which have been active and which have been surveyed, just one got more than 6,000 views. So what we think is there is adding KPIs is needed. And so from the idea we want to have more visitors going to say first, actually it's not the number of arrivals, it's the number of overnights. It's also not only overnights, it's the number of how much is spent per trip and what is your margin. But that's, even this is not enough. This is the green level. So to say, how can we have more satisfied Chinese visitors? And by having better adapted products so that they recommend you to their friends. how can we have also more satisfied staff members so that they are more friendly and more productive and don't see Chinese as guests or customers, which are difficult. And also, as we have seen, you need to keep the locals in the picture, otherwise they will start to be anti-tourist. We all know Barcelona and Venice and all these pictures. So this is the new tourism paradigm triangle we came up with, where you have at the bottom the destinations and the services. So the base in Mongolia, you can't offer beach tourism, and on the Maldives, you can't offer mountain climbing. That is not to be changed. So there is a physical and the cultural base you can build on, but then you can see there are two ways up the market. One is on the left-hand side, have a very deep knowledge about your source market, and based on this, do a product adaptation for different groups of different customers. And on the right-hand side, use and build up your IT or ICT knowledge and use all the nice new tools we have for digitalization so that you can really also use the data you have about customers to offer them what they actually want. And build on this, the 3 steps of trust so that Chinese tourists can really feel welcome and feel safe, both in the terms of sanitation, but also in the terms of being treated with respect. To the point of embeddedness, of feeling, and there's a term of kinship economy, so that you feel part of it and then maybe also feel more responsible. So if you feel I have connections to the people here in I don't know, in the Maldives, then you're less likely to break off a coral and bring it home as a souvenir. If you think, okay, these people are somehow I belong to them. They have included me in their social structures. And on the top of this, have the KPI of satisfaction. With you can measure this with sentiment measurement and so on, so that you have people satisfied. And of course, at the final goal, we have personalization, offering exactly what the customer wants to each specific customer. So this is in a nutshell what we think how we should move forward, and especially for the Chinese market, because the problems have been bigger than in other markets, and it is the biggest source market, and probably will be, or certainly will be, the biggest source market in the world again. I just have been told that there have been a lot of questions if these slides will be available afterwards, and the answer is, of course, yes. So one, the whole thing today will be recorded, so you will have a video, but of course also, if you want to have a set of the slides, just inform us, and we are happy to share this with you. So some practical part, and then I will finish. So the post-virus Chinese outbound travelers, according to a lot of surveys done by many companies in China, are more keen than before on family travel, on nature experiences instead of shopping, on traveling to not so overcrowded places, to get in more contact with the locals, and short-term, of course, hygiene and sanitation. So they want to trust the hosts, so who need to show their engagement with the market, their sympathy for the visitors just by being interested in them as a person. So Zurab, the current SG from UWO, has said, trust is a currency of the new normal. So trust, I think, will be a word we will use a lot in the coming months and years. And embeddedness as the idea that based on the work of some Hungarian economist, Mr. Polanyi. So the post-virus Chinese outbound traveler wants to feel embedded in the local destination, the local society, in the hotel, so that he is treated as somebody who is really welcomed. And you can do this, for instance, by simply staying in contact with that. So in our work, very often we found that people working with Chinese customers, they don't know where in China they're coming from. They don't know certainly their names or their email addresses, so they cannot stay in touch with them. They cannot give them specific offers. So that is simply what if you do that. And to finish, satisfaction by giving Chinese what they're interested in, and maybe extending what is your service and rethinking what is your service. Is a beach only for recreation, or can you offer this, for instance, for families with kids, that there can be some education about the beach as an ecosystem, or can you have a hotel as a place where you have a lot of new technologies and things to try out? Certainly will be something appreciated by Chinese visitors. And so final point, perceiving your customers as people, as Mr. Wang, as Mrs. Li, not just as Chinese or even worse, Asians. So this is a brief overview. So you can see this book is published as an ebook, and we have been working very hard on keeping the deadline as short as possible. So this is everything which happened basically until now has been included in the book, and I hope that for many of you this will be a companion on the way to have a better understanding and a more successful business with the Chinese market. And let me also mention that we have a special subscription price in the coming days as well. So that's all from me. And so now I think we move to Istvan, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we said because you have some other appointments, so that we you asked that you can give your statement first, and then if you have time to stay, of course, happy to have you stay. But so maybe my first question for all the panelists, maybe you can also give a brief introduction about yourself. But my question is that in the interview we have in the book, you said that I'm convinced that tourism is part of the new Green Deal. So sustainable, smart strategy is needed in our beloved tourism. Can you explain a bit what you mean by smart strategy from your point of view?
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody, dear colleagues. Daja Hao in the Chinese Mandarin. I would like to send you my greetings from Hungary. And first of all, I would like to thank to Wolfgang, because he invited me to be here with you, and you have to know that we have a long cooperation with each other. And of course, I will order your book if it's if it's a good chance to make advertisement for it. So I will answer you, but of course I have a longer speech about the situation in Europe. I don't need 1 hour, I need only 10 minutes, but maybe it's important to know what and how we are thinking about the tourist policy in the European institutions. The main question of today's seminar is crucial, how to restart the outbounding tourism from the third countries, especially from China. And of course, we have the experts here with us today. We all know the shocking figures. We have all realized the economic loss caused by the COVID-19. Of course, we have to think about the 27 million jobs in the European Union, which are related to the tourism industry, and millions of jobs are in danger now in these months. And we have to think about that, what will happen with us in not only in the European Union, but all over the world in the tourism industry, if we will have more and more crises. I'm vice chair of the TRAN committee, which is the Transportation and the Tourism Committee of the European Parliament. At the same time, I'm a volunteer special ambassador of the UNWTO to the EU institutions. Most probably you remember the EU-China Tourism Year, which was my initiation in the European Parliament. And the European Commission implemented that annual program, giving much awareness to Chinese outbound tourism. And I'm also a member of the European Parliament China delegation. So I have deep understanding on the EU-China economical and political cooperation. Overall, we founded the OBOR committee, which is the One Belt, One Road EU-China Tourism, Cultural and Education Committee to facilitate the relations between EU and China. Last month, and now I will start to tell you some information about the European institutions. Last month, the European Parliament supported and voted in favor for the agreement between EU-China civil aviation safety. The negotiations has happened during the past 4 years, and we worked on hard to have it supported by the MEPs. I think it is an important step concerning the future of tourism, and especially for the outbound tourism. And let me tell you some of the latest results from Brussels. Immediately after the first week of the crisis, we defined 3 main fields where immediate actions should have been taken. At first, guarantee immediate access to liquidity and support businesses and consumers in the challenging initial phase. As I told several times, we must put tourism on ventilation machine. Secondly, lay out concrete plans for the recovery plan, recovery period. And third, devise a long-term future strategy that goes beyond the COVID-19 crisis, setting the foundations for a new, smart, modern, and sustainable EU tourism and travel sector. And I was listening to your speech, and you mentioned several good examples how we can change our thinking about the tourism business to be smarter, to use all the European destinations, to use modern technology, and think about the Green Deal, which is, I hope, after the crisis will be again the most important project of the European Union. As a father of 6 kids, I had to think about them future. And they would like to also make, for example, business in the tourism. So they need good tourism, but they also need our globes, and they need good life. So we have to continue the Green Deal with a smart tourism strategy. You're probably aware of the complexity of the decision-making process in Brussels, political hub, where we have the 3 main political institutions. I learned again a lot in Brussels the last half a year, how difficult to make coordination between these institutions. But we have to make this practice, and we have to do it again and again, because the European Union and, for example, the tourism industry need very quick decisions. We don't have 3, 4, 5 years to change if we need some changes. Even we have a representation of tourism in the institutions. The main role of the Commission was to coordinate among the member states on border control and restrictions, as tourism is a national competence. As a tourism advocate, I'm fighting during the last 6 years to have a common European tourism policy. The main problem, which stays in many cases concerning the opening of borders in the possible second wave of COVID-19, that national reflections and old mechanisms arrive first. The governments have realized the crisis as a health issue only, which has followed by economic difficulties. While many colleagues in the European Parliament and even the European Commission wanted to have a coordinated approach and solutions on the European level from the beginning. We need common guidelines and protocols at least. There were several decisions where the EU institutions worked together from the first moment, like concerning the airport slot regulation, where within 10 days we have changed the existing legislation to avoid the flights of empty planes. Concerning the consumer rights and the questions of travel vouchers, we acted together. And concerning the financial aids and different programs for the immediate help, the Commission made extraordinary decisions to revise the budgetary sources and give several possibilities for member states' governments to use their EU money for the crisis management through an easier procedure, for example, to support the tourism SMEs and companies. There were many countries who used the state aid mechanism for national aviation companies. Other countries set up travel guarantee fund, like Denmark. Several member states understood the SMEs difficulties, like Greece or Croatia. Portugal has invented much in safe travel with common guidelines. There are more and more best practices that we could follow and implement. And parallel with all of this, the Commission, for example, Commissioner Breton or Commissioner Valéan, gave inspirative speeches talking about a new Marshall Plan for the tourism. Till now, many programs and strategical ideas were introduced. The political groups welcomed them all on behalf of the European Parliament, but the main message has disappeared somewhere in the air. This message is to place tourism on the European community level, like the energy policy in the past years or health policy during these months, to create a common European policy for tourism based on a vision and a comprehensive strategy and with concrete money from the EU budget. I completely do not understand why the Commission, the Council haven't recognized that in several policies we need to have to define common European policies. In one of the Commission papers, the Commission services acknowledge the importance of tourism, and comparing to other sectors, the result has shown the biggest investment is needed for this sector to be taken in the coming years. That is why my group, the S&D group, wrote its own policy paper and with other political groups discussed and agreed on a joint parliamentary resolution, which is a historical step to support European tourism, because we have never had so strong and important resolution to support the European tourism from the Parliament. So this is the political momentum. Then we must act together for getting a common tourism policy. And what is the situation now? The EU institutions understood to save the summer season at least. So finally and gradually, the majority of the member states have opened their countries. But the COVID second phase is there in many places again. Officially, EU opened their external borders to third countries, but led the final decision and responsibility towards the member states' governments. Being a global industry, measures are most effective when the needs and the specificities of the member states are taken into consideration and transferred into a coordinated strategy at EU level. Therefore, we need to synchronize action at European level and support member states in their efforts to stabilize a sector which plays a profound role in the European economy. That's why, for example, we need common strategy to make a good deal with China, not only to invite Chinese tourists to Europe, but also to introduce the beautiful China for the Europeans, because we need one win-win good cooperation with China if we would like to support the tourism business. European citizens need to trust that it is safe to resume travel and that their rights will be protected. After all, the tourism and travel industry is the industry of peace, greatly contributing and promoting dialogue and mutual understanding among the citizens of member states, as the UN WTO, for example, Zura Prolikashvili, told it several times the last months. Every crisis is an opportunity. It is our common responsibility to seize the opportunity and transform the currently given challenges and risk into a chance for a new beginning by putting the entire tourist sector its rightful place among the different European policy areas. So, therefore, it is essential to put tourism back on track in Europe as well as on global level. That's why I'm here together with you, and thank you so much again the invitation. And as Wolfgang, you told, I have to leave to the Chinese embassy in Budapest. I will have a meeting with the ambassador, and I couldn't change it, so I have to be there to speak about the European Chinese, Hungarian Chinese relations. But I will listening you, but I will not share my my video on my way when I will drive. So thank you so much. Have a nice summertime, and let's support the European and the Chinese tourists together.
So yeah, thank you very much. Best regards to the ambassador, and thank you very much, Istvan. I think this was a very nice overview about what has to be done, and also that I think many people agree that this is overdue. So this is something which needs to be done, or should have been done even earlier. But yes, you are certainly one of those people pushing this, and so that is, yes, opportunity coming out of a crisis. We heard this many times, but there might be some truth in it, actually. Yes. So okay, thank you very much for that. So let's start the regular panel discussion, and maybe I will start with Xijing first. And let's, I think, jump right into the discussion. Xijing, you wrote in the answers to the interview, less is more. This is a principle we should follow again to a bigger degree. Some people have been saying that means we have to increase prices. So there was an article in The Guardian saying tourism is a luxury, and people who want to be tourists, they have to pay for it. And if they can't afford it, bad luck for them. So this is probably not what you mean by less is more. So maybe you can give us a short introduction of yourself, and then maybe can elaborate on this a bit.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Let me start by, first of all, extend a word of thanks to you, Dr. Arlt, as well as to our friends from BUZZ.travel, and especially to Jan, for inviting me as a guest speaker in here, as a panelist in here. And congratulations, Wolfgang, because I think this is extremely important, and your seminar and the launch of your eBook is very much timely, in a sense that we reflect ourselves on the Chinese market, but more importantly, we look forward to the futures, not only to the next 12 months, but into the next decade. So once again, hearty congratulations to you. I have sifted through your eBook, and I certainly echo the sentiment expressed by my friend Istvan, that the book is very rich in content. And even me being a Chinese, I think I need to go back to the details of the book and update my knowledge as far as the content of the Chinese outbound market is concerned. But I cannot only extend a word of thanks here to you, but also to our friends and the team in the BUZZ.travel, whereby I also congratulate your initiative of creating such a nice network of professional chit-chatting, and that is very important nowadays. Yes, it is flooded with a lot of webinars and all these, but the solid network of this kind is what we need at this time. And also good to see my old friend Dean K. Chung. A long time no see. I think we're all in the same situation whereby no one is traveling. So I send my warm greetings to all of you from the sunny Madrid. Let's hope that physically we will be able to meet each other one day as soon as possible. Now, before Wolfgang, I address the issue of less is more. Perhaps I can also share a few points, but I'm fully aware of the time constraint. Number one, when we look at the Chinese market now, like we look at all markets of source countries, the overall situation has to be looked with bearing in mind the hygiene and the health concern factor. No one can avoid that. And the overall tourism situation has to be linked with the situation of the health issue. It is not very stable. We would like to be more stable, but it seems that one step forward, certain countries improved, but 2 steps backward, other countries get even worse. So whatever matters that we discuss as we speak, this is the overwhelming factor that will impact and will continue to impact our discussions in planning terms, in recovery terms. And this is not only to the Chinese market, and destinations around the world may be a little bit too over-optimistic when it comes to the restart, to push the button for the new normal. So I would like to share this particular point with you. Now, you mentioned about less is more. This, indeed, I would like to look at it from a broader perspective, that tourism after the COVID-19 will no longer be the same. Like many other economic and social sectors of this planet Earth, whether we like it or not, pandemic of this nature doesn't happen overnight. It is the mankind that has done something wrong that has caused what is happening right now. When we look at the tourism side of the story, yes, it has been a good story and a successful story to tell. Yes, it is extremely high growth, but to what extent that we can continue like this, whether this whole concept of mass tourism can really sustain the next decade. This is where I actually shared my opinion, as many others also indicated, that we need to look at the social and the humanistic side of the tourism sector, rather than sheerly looking at the maximization of benefits, sheerly looking at the economic side of the tourism development. This is where I shared my opinion on the concept of less is more, because only when you have the due respect for the communities, for the host, and that growth will be sustainable. And it is with that context that I think the line of change may be in the direction of more favoring nature, more favoring community-based tourism, and certainly the attainment of SDG through our force for good tourism sector will be more tabled, because we gradually realizing that it is only when it is the four-wing situations that all come together rather than separate that we will sustain this sector. Back to you, Wolfgang.
Okay, thank you. Yes, certainly. There is, I think, behind this health and sanitation issue, as you said, there is a deeper issue of being doing things in a meaningful way, and that this development of mass tourism and of really feeling that you're not a person but just a number. So you're a room 503, not even the guy in 503, but you're just 503. That this has been going on too long, and that this idea, I want you to guarantee me that I'm safe, also is not only about I'm not catching the virus, but also more you take note of me and of my needs. So thank you very much for that. So moving on to Hong Kong. Okay, thank you so much for being with us. And well, you're famously the dean of SACM, but you're also running a hotel. So you have the very wonderful Icon Hotel. So you also have been certainly heavily bounced around by the situation as it is in Hong Kong already now for some time. So in the interview you said the Chinese will go for new and novel destinations that are less politically sensitive and which were not on their list before. So can you tell us a bit about first, yes, yourself and the situation you're in now, but also that the background for this forecast that the Chinese will look for novel destinations.
Okay, thank you very much, Wolfgang. Good afternoon and good morning to those in Europe. Wolfgang, thank you for inviting me to join this panel.
Pleasure.
Congratulations on this successful forum. I understand there are 2,200 participants signed up, but now there are 149 people attending. So perhaps the rest of them are on YouTube, or are they on other medium, perhaps? Or they are on standby to get in to you. Anyway, so it's nice that you have a successful forum. And when I was invited to participate, I thought I understood exactly what this online webinar is about. Then I began to look more closely. I think my comments perhaps is not necessarily directly about Chinese tourists to Europe. It can be quite general, but of course applicable to Europe. As my friend Sujing mentioned earlier, I think the safety and hygiene is a huge issue, becoming a bigger and bigger issue. I'll tell you this. 17 years ago, we went through the SARS. So based upon experience, because Hong Kong was so terribly battered by SARS 17 years ago, when this thing called COVID-19 came in January or February, I was very confidently saying that, oh, don't worry. By May, I can tell you, everything will be over. At the latest June, don't worry. But I was wrong. Why? Because COVID-19 is not SARS. It's much worse than SARS. Secondly, it is a global pandemic. It's not anything regional. So we have gone through this process of guessing and then expecting and then hoping, planning, and then realize that we cannot plan anything because whatever we predict, whatever we plan doesn't work. So in the case of Hong Kong, it's even worse because, as you know, 2019 was a very difficult year because of series of social unrest in Hong Kong. And then after that, the COVID-19. So we have been really battered by all the series of incidents. Now from this, I have organized my thought in some ways. First of all, yes, when we are over with this, in the process of overcoming, definitely, I think tourists today, not only just Chinese, but any tourist, will become more conscious of safety and hygiene. I think that's foremost important. But what does that mean? And we have to find a way to translate that into some tangible ways of communicating with tourists. As Wolfgang mentioned, we operate our own hotel. I'm sitting actually in front of the hotel icon behind me. This is a hotel our school is operating, 260 room hotel called Hotel Icon. This is fully owned and operated by university for teaching and research purpose. When we came with this idea, many people thought that, Professor, you are good, I know you are good in research and teaching, but you are very innocent. It's not that easy to run a business, make money out of this. But all this industry friends who are pessimistic about this idea, they found out that they were wrong because this hotel has been very successful since opening. And according to TripAdvisor, it's ranked among top 3 hotels in Hong Kong, always. I'll tell you, it's not easy to be ranked among top 3 in Hong Kong because Hong Kong is mecca of any hotel brands you can think about. The reason why the hotel has been successful is because of innovation we brought. So even for hygiene and safety, imagine now in every touch point in the process of traveling to a destination, at the port of entry, and all kinds of activities at destinations, today's travelers are more conscious about hygiene and safety. So as an operator, you have to think about how we can identify those touch points and then tangibilize and assure the customers that you are safe. Again, going down to the very simple example in hotel industry. When you are staying in a hotel, there are many touch points you are going through, even in the guest room. Imagine there are many things of concern, the hygiene concern, starting from TV remote control or telephone set in the room, everything. We identified one more touch point, that is, in the back of the door, there is something called peephole. So if guests are using the peephole, they have to lean toward that door to put their forehead to the door. Then you think about it. Not many hotels are even thinking about it. So when we are cleaning and disinfecting the guest room, we go through these touch points and disinfect, not just cleaning, disinfect everything. And then after the housekeeping staff has completed disinfecting, cleaning, at the door, we put a paper seal. The guest who is checking in has to break that seal to enter the room. So this is a way of assuring that this room is clean. You are assured. So this is an example of how you can think about operating and tangibilizing hygiene and safety. I think that's an example. So I think industry will have to think about this. That's number one. Second is digital transformation. You know, our industry has gone through a lot of digital transformation, but definitely because of COVID-19 is expediting. You know, that has implications even in education. We are revamping our curriculum. Why? Because our graduates are all successful in hotel business or travel business when they graduate. But if they do not understand digital technology, they will wind up working for people who understand information technology. So our graduates have to understand. So take an example of marketing. We have a course called Hospitality and Tourism Marketing, traditional just teaching what is hospitality and tourism, how you sell, how to market, how to package. Now we change the course to something called Hospitality and Tourism Marketing in Digital Age. So it's heavy emphasis on digital. I think so that leads to smart tourism. Now, last 30 years of industry was highlighted by what we call high tech and high touch. I'll tell you, because of COVID-19, it will be high tech, low touch. Customers do not want to have high touch, just want to have, I want to get into my room, I want to get on my flight, fly safely. I don't want to see a flight attendant coming every 10 minutes asking what I'm doing. I just want to left alone and then fly safely and arrive at destination. So high tech, low touch. So I think that's digital transformation and smart tourism. Third, I think now every destination has no option but only focusing on staycation. Even in Hong Kong, there's now something called domestic tourism. I'm not kidding. Hong Kong is a city, a small city, but we have now promoting domestic tourism in Hong Kong. In fact, last 2 months, I have seen so much of Hong Kong. I have seen more Hong Kong than last 20 years since I moved to Hong Kong. Now, the thing is that many destinations are doing this staycation out of desperation. But in my view, you have to think about how you can link this staycation with international tourism for long term. For example, for Chinese inbound tourists. Here's a good example. In 2004 in Thailand, the Thailand tourism was badly affected by tsunami. 2003, there was SARS. 2004, there was a tsunami. Tourism was non-existent in Thailand. So Tourism Authority of Thailand launched a campaign called Unseen Thailand, unseen. That's, you have not seen Thailand. So they were trying to promote domestic tourism, especially for foreigners living in Thailand, expatriates. As a result of this Unseen Thailand campaign, after 2004, all these unknown destinations in Thailand became known to international tourists. Prior to that event, Thailand was known only for Bangkok, Phuket, Pattaya, and Chiang Mai. But as a result of this Unseen Thailand campaign, the entire Thailand, such places like Koh Samui or Chiang Rai or Isan, Khon Kaen became known. So you have to think about how you can link this staycation to the international tourism market. That's last. I also want to make one point about, especially with Asian tourists. Now I think among the fears, in my view, of not only just Chinese but Asians in general, in traveling to anywhere, especially to Europe or Americas, because there's, I think it's well publicized, there is a fear of terrorism against tourists. There are, in the Hong Kong media, often there is a report of how the Asian tourists have been violated because somehow there is an association with COVID-19 and then discrimination. I think there's a real fear. So I think educating the local communities, that is important. And also you have to be always sensitive. When I travel, oftentimes, I don't know how often I'm approached by someone saying, ni hao, and then trying to explain things in Chinese. And sometimes I have to very patiently wait and say that, excuse me, actually, I don't speak Chinese. I'm not a Chinese. But they are trying hard. So I think assuming that every Asian is Chinese and trying to treat as Chinese, that's wrong to begin with. And I think being a little bit more sensitive, that has to be education, right? And then also it has with education in the communities. I don't know how often when I travel, I was ridiculed not by kids, but some adults in front of their own kids. So I don't know what these kids will learn from parents. So I think these are things that, I mean, destinations, we have to really seriously think about using this opportunity to educate the community. So for the benefit of long-term tourism. These are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think this is, yeah, these are all very valid points. And of course, this is also what we tried to put into this point of embeddedness, that you have to bring the locals to see what are the advantages of having the tourists, and of course also to distinguish that not all Asians are Chinese, of course. So I would like to pick up one of the points. Okay, John has said, talking to Roger in Shanghai. So I have seen hotels, staying with hotels, saying, don't worry, the pen we give you to fill out the paper form for registration is sanitized. Whereas on the other hand, you have hotels where they say, we bring your own device, and in the room there is no remote control anymore for the TV, because you have an app. You can operate the TV from your own smartphone. You don't have to touch anything other than your own smartphone. So I think that you can see there is quite a wide range of how much you can bring technology into the picture. So Roger, you said in the interview, we should not be afraid of technology. And I know that you have been saying similar things before in other panels we shared and other presentations. I listened to you. So how do you see this from a Chinese traveler's point of view? So how much push will there be from their side to say, hey, I don't want to fill out a paper form for registration. This is not 2013. Are you kidding me? So how much will there be a push, and of course helped by, as both Xu Ying and Ketron have been saying, that this sanitation thing will have a bigger impact. Don't forget to unmute, yeah.
Okay, thank you first of all, Wolfgang, for inviting me to this panel. It's been actually, I think, more than 10 months or even 1 year that I haven't been participating in any panels as before. So I haven't been even traveled since, end of last year. So that's the real world. That's the new world today. So as you can see that in terms of the technology parts, we are using technology now to connect again with each other. So we're embracing the technology. But for the Chinese tourists, even before the COVID-19 situation, the Chinese people rely a lot on the technology parts, on their applications, on mobiles, on the website bookings, on OTAs. This kind of technology is actually already very familiar for the Chinese tourists. It's just in the post-virus world, for the Chinese people, they want to understand how the Western destinations is changing with the technology, because before, when they travel to any European destinations, it's very complicated. They have to download their tickets, they have to print it, they have to take the paper tickets to any attractions that is not used with the applications. So it's another world in some way for the Chinese tourists. But in post-virus situation, people are more conscious about this kind of technology using in different destinations. Just give an example, that's how that's our shopping BUZZ Village shopping collections is using now today. So we are an outdoor shopping destination. We have 11 shopping villages, 9 in Europe and 2 in China. So when the 2 China villages reopens after the Chinese government allowed So we take a very strict protocols, of course, the shopping protocols for our tourists, because the Chinese people, they're very care about the health and safety precautions. So we take, of course, all the temperatures scanned for our visitors, and we also have hand sanitizers, hand washings, etc. These are all the protocols that we are applying for all the villages. But more, we use technology as well in our European villages. You know, before there are long queue in front of, for example, a Gucci shop, a Burberry shops. People, they are getting very close to each other. But today, because of the shopping protocols, we have to keep, you know, social distance from each other, from other guests. So we develop, you know, in our application, we develop a queuing system, which means you can make a reservation for avoiding a queue in front of any stores you want to visit. You can just visit there at the time you make the reservation. This is a very, you know, very simple step for any companies, I think, to do that. But this is a real technology function or solutions that helps people in the post-virus situation to keep social distance and to have a better experience. Actually, we are now having a better experience than before, even than before, because before you have to queue among a lot of people, but today you know when to go, when to visit the shops. And even that, for that, before we use a lot of paper maps for our clients, so they just take out the papers. It's waste, of course, it's not environment friendly, but today we use applications, we use interactive maps to guide our tourists to say, okay, now you're in Gucci shops. If you want to go to Burberry, you can just check it on our interactive maps. And people have also a very good experience using technology. You don't even need to talk to any staff in the villages to understand where you are. So it also keep a low, you know, touch points to other people. So everything using technology today in our shopping villages help us becoming a very good example as outdoor with safety precautions and for not only Chinese tourists, but even for the European tourists today. So we can see the results already in China villages after reopening. We see a very good results even before the virus situation. So people, they are enjoying our shopping villages using these technologies. And I think technology is something that we cannot just avoid. Before, you know, China, I worked before in C-Trip as an OTA. It's a technology company. I always convince my partners and suppliers in Europe, in European countries, to say, okay, you need to use applications, you need to use social media, so you need to communicate with Chinese people using those digital platforms and solutions. Somehow, because they're quite, you know, in a traditional way in communicating, so they are reluctant to change. But I think it's a very good opportunity now after the virus situation for all of us to rethink about technology, using the technology solutions, how it can help us to improve the customer's experience and how they feel about the safety and health precautions using technology solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. I think thinking of it, as you just said, maybe now people are more open to move forward with this, because this technology has been around for a long time. So museums or art galleries, if there's a popular exhibition, they sell timed entrance tickets already since 10 years or so. And this bring your own device thing I mentioned before has been around also for 6-7 years already. So it's very interesting what you're saying, that people have been reluctant to do this. Even I can imagine that you even have a higher turnover if people don't waste time on standing in queues, so they will be able to shop more. It's even profitable to do that. So
yeah,
what kept people from doing that?
Yeah, you know, before entering to any attractions today, even some attractions they're using facial recognition solutions, so people even don't need to take out their mobile phone; they just enter with their face. Hey, you don't. Okay, so this is something that happening in China's markets. So we hope that in the coming future, the European destinations, the companies, the suppliers, or the tourism sectors, or not only tourism sectors, they are embracing the technology, and hope that the markets will reply to this kind of new things in a positive.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Xujing, I'm aware that you also have to have another important meeting. You have to be a teacher, I think. So, if you have to leave, so we're sorry to lose you, but of course, go ahead.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I will stay.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so finally, let's go to Budapest again. So. We started with Budapest and we entered Budapest this panel. So Mate, so you said in the interview we will have to prepare for the new preferences of the market. So as an airport, well, you're rather indirectly serving the customers in many ways. So what does it mean from your, or how have you been doing this from your position as an airport in saying, okay, we prepare for the new preferences of our customers?
Yes, thank you, Wolfgang, and it's a pleasure to be here. And it was a pleasure to give inputs to your ebook, which is a great one. Congratulations to it. It was nice to listen to other panelists. And yeah, it's important to clarify the role of an airport in the ecosystem we are talking about. So I'm a member of the airline development team, and actually there's a commercial development focus of an airport, at least at Budapest Airport. Why it's important? Because many times the demand does not see the supply, or vice versa. So we, with our data tools, we have qualitative and quantitative data. We act as a link between supply and demand. Without doubt, Hungary is not the largest aviation market in Europe. So airline decision makers, they do not have the time, energy, or the manpower within their team to get down to the nitty-gritty, to really understand the market and market dynamics and to discover the latent market opportunity. So this is the moment when the airline development team and myself come to the picture, and we try to introduce the market opportunity. And this is what we have been doing since 2015 in China with our stakeholders in the ecosystem. As I mentioned, we have qualitative and quantitative data, and as I highlighted in the book, an airport should lead a discussion based on facts. We should be an advocate that there is demand. There are benchmarks to be used, and if those benchmarks worked, then for Budapest, there's also a shot in China to welcome non-stop air services. And just to give you some numbers, we are really into number crunching, but I do not want to tell a lot of numbers. But in 2014, we had around 80,000 aggregate air passengers on a bilateral basis. And last year we had 220,000. So we had almost 25% of compound average growth rate since 2015, which is truly outstanding. We are an airport in the Schengen area, so the majority of our traffic comes from Schengen air traffic. But when I look at third country air traffic volumes, we realized that China is a big opportunity. But it's not enough to be aware that there's an opportunity. You have to communicate the opportunity towards stakeholders. And we also realized that without a strong stakeholder cooperation in China, we are not able to achieve our goals, which is to enhance indirect connectivity and to welcome new non-stop flights. Welcoming a new non-stop flight is not easy. Basically, last year we welcomed Shanghai Airlines from Shanghai. We were very proud of this achievement. But to be honest, we started the discussion with them in 2015. which is now seen as a golden age of aviation between China and Europe. It was very nice to listen to the opinion of other panelists. I also believe that safety and hygiene, they are important. My colleague Nicolette in the afternoon session will tell more about how Budapest Airport did the homework to be prepared for Chinese tourists. But I must be the devil's advocate a bit, because price is also important in the recovery process. Do not forget that the pandemic has a very strong economic impact, which is true for all customers around the world, because it's a global economic recession what we are facing. We have to keep in mind that airline business is a capital intense and narrow margin activity. So as I mentioned in the ebook, long haul operation is very pricey. You need a lot of financial cushion. And at the beginning of the spring, we projected that, well, state-owned Chinese carriers have strong financial cushion and should return June, July latest. Keeping in mind that June is the busiest month and many airlines, Chinese carriers, time the launch of the service to June. That was the case in Shanghai Airlines last year. And now we missed that timeline, and due to the fact that it's a narrow margin business to operate long haul flights, we also have scenarios not to welcome Chinese carriers in the next 2 to 3 months, or even before winter, because winter time, everyone loses money in winter. There's not big demand. So scenarios should be prepared and should be updated on a regular basis. What would fuel the recovery? As I learned this week, some big OTAs in China, let's say Ctrip, still prefers to promote domestic tours instead of international tours. So they are essential to have Chinese customers again in Europe. And also it's important to highlight that the current lack of air passengers is not demand driven. So it's because of regulation, and our outstanding growth pre-pandemic, it's simply cannot evaporate in a couple of months, what has been built in the last years. So because of those factors, we have high hope that the recovery is achievable, but not in the short term. And as recently IATA claimed, they delayed the full recovery by 1 year to 2024. So there are a lot of questions and a lot of risks ahead. Excuse me, but an airline should also lead the discussion to discover the problems in the market. So we must be aware of the passenger profile of those air passengers between China and Hungary. Otherwise, you don't know your market and you cannot pitch for the return of these direct flights. So we did our homework in the last years, gaining tons of data about the aviation traffic. And now we should focus more to collect data, to communicate data, and to spread information among stakeholders, how much it counts to have a non-stop route. And just one last comment, we had the chance to collect very impressive historic data before the pandemic. Shanghai Airlines in 7 months of operation increased the air traffic between Budapest and Shanghai by 50%. 50%. In a market which was already mature and well served by connecting airports in the Middle East or in Europe. So this 50% stimulation of the market truly justifies why there should be more freedom in air traffic between the European Union and China.
Okay, well, thanks, Mate. Very, very interesting to listen to you. And I think, yes, as you mentioned, this is not only about economics, is also about politics a lot, and so this is we can only hope that with all the geopolitical things going on, that there will be, for instance, for Europe, an interest of the Chinese side to strengthen relations, which might then change, and we have seen this before, that policies can also be changed rather quickly, and so hopefully we're not talking about 2024 before we see that. That will be telling big trouble ahead for many of us. So so I think we can have a short Q&A session before then we move on to the presentation of Rebecca about mobile payments. So one question I saw, and anybody of you can answer that, is that, so we talk about providing sanitation and hygiene to the tourists, but we all have been seeing pictures, not of Chinese tourists, but of other tourists themselves not taking much care about these regulations. Some in Spain, and of course, if you look at all the pictures from Florida or from America, you think these guys are really crazy. What are they doing? So what is the expectation once the Chinese tourists start traveling again? And there are some countries open for Chinese tourists, like the Maldives opened on the 15th of July, and they have a policy. I was told that they bring like chartered flight directly from one tour operator, one group directly to Malay, and of course on the Maldives normally have one atoll, is one resort, so it's very easy to have this isolated. So will the Chinese tourists, once they start to travel again in bigger groups, will they themselves keep to the rules and regulations, or will we have a problem that they will themselves create danger? Xu Jing, I think you raised your hand, please.
Thank you, Wolfgang. I will just throw the light a little bit, but I'm sure Roger will have a better say in this. It's not the question whether the Chinese or the Asian tourists in general will stick to the rules or disciplined. Probably it's the other way around, because the Asians, in philosophical way, we have been very used to collective thinking rather than individual philosophy. So the question is on the receiving side. And therefore, I think any restart has to be gradual, and any restart will have to be progressive rather than aggressive. By that, what I mean is that a linear approach will be much better than a multi-itinerary type of approach. Because if you look at what Chinese are doing now for the business market, what they are doing is to create the green channel, the special channel, or the travel bubble, as the Western world is calling it. It's only based on these kind of bilateral negotiations, point-to-point, linear approach that we can really start our progressive restart of the Chinese market. This is my personal opinion. I don't know whether Roger would agree. You hear a lot of this so-called revenge spending, that you have been stuck at home, your pent-up desire for spending is very high, but that has to come at a much later stage, before the destinations put clear-cut procedures in terms of hygiene concerns, and only with that, gradually linear approach. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Roger, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I would just add several points. One thing is about the rule. How do we define this rule? If it's a rule about taking masks, about keep social distance, etc., I think the Asian people or the Chinese people, they have already taken the best example in the world. You can see, okay, comparing to in the United States or in other Western countries. So I think if we're talking about that kind of rules, I'm confident that we will follow the rules. But in another way, if we're talking about some other rules that are created or made by the local countries or destination that Chinese people, they don't really know about it, then it comes to a question is about whether we really educate or inform the tourists or Chinese tourists and about how to follow the rules. For example, the rules in a restaurant, in the Western style restaurants, they have the certain rules. This kind of rules, do we really know about it, or do we really educated about that? So this kind of rules are different, or we cannot say only rules, but also customs, in local customs. So this is really different. Two questions, I think. Thank you.
Yes. No, certainly. I have heard from many Chinese friends that they say, well, that they think it's dangerous to come here because look, these guys don't even wear masks. So this is certainly the other way around, that they are, we are the monsters. So not wearing masks. But for the second point, of course, this is something also I think I briefly mentioned in my presentation, and we talk about this in the book, that you can also use a restaurant as a way of teaching etiquette and saying, well, you have a 10 minutes free training, so how to eat a lobster, because yeah, this is something I fully agree. This is simply assumed that you know which glass is for red wine and which glass is for white wine. Well, of course you don't know if as nobody is teaching this to you, and you don't grow up in a society where this is a common way to do it. Yes, and so therefore it is also, I think, for I would be to answer the question of our participant, I would be more afraid of the Germans than of the Chinese, actually, in that respect, for sure. There has been one more question, and then I think we will have the next presentation, which was so which kind of accommodation will the Chinese tourists prefer more in the future? Because there has been this debate. Some people have been saying they want to go to big hotels because they trust that the big hotel chain can invest enough money and have strict written protocols. And we all know that every hotel group has books with what to do about it. And John talked about this. So I rather go to a big hotel chain because they have this strict policies, compared to other people saying, no, now they all will use Airbnb, they all will use holiday flats, because in a holiday flat, you have yourself, it's possible for yourself to decide how much cleaning and how much sanitation, how much spraying and washing you're doing. So you don't have to rely on anybody else. You don't have to rely on an underpaid Bulgarian cleaning woman who is maybe not really happy with, not well paid, and is not doing a very thorough job. So if you have a holiday flat, you can be sure that you do all this stuff in a proper way yourself. So what do you think is which side of the argument you would take, that it's rather people look for smaller places now and for short-term rental, or they go to the safety of clear management methods? Who wants to start? Roger, you want to start?
Okay, for the hotel bookings, actually, that is true what you said about the big hotel chains. Even in China today, for the domestic travel, we can see that more people believe that the big chain have the best protocols in their hotels to keep the customers, the visitors safe, and with a better hygiene and safety situation. So that is true. And I think in the post-virus situation, at least in the short term, it will still be true even for the outbound market when people go abroad in overseas destinations, because they believe the big chains have the investment in doing that, and they care, and because they are most of the big chains, they are global, hotel groups, for example, they have basically the same protocols and the same measures to help people. So in China, actually, those Western brands, they learn a lot from the China markets. Even for our villages, our European villages learn a lot from our two China villages about how to keep people feel safe and how to keep the precautions applied on sites. So this is, I think, the advantage for those big chains. And I think for Chinese people, this will be the trend after the outbound recovers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, this is more from the accommodation sector to look at the market. But if I may, to look at it more strategically, looking into the future post-virus, I think it is a good opportunity not only for the Chinese market, but for major source market, but particularly for the Chinese market, to have a shift, the shift going from the typical sightseeing, bling bling camera taking type or shopping type to more slow-paced, leisure-paced tourism. And this is where the opportunity lies within the European destinations, because a whole range of luxury products, the beach tourism, the sports-related tourism, the soft venture, and even rural tourism products, none of these are systematically been introduced to the Chinese market yet. It is always city hopping, it's always sightseeing, it's always museum visiting, but other products that have been there for decades for the European tourists, you have a good chance to introduce now. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with that. So Matej, so we don't want to leave you out. So do we have any information from Budapest or from Hungary? So how the demand, has there been more people interested in Airbnb or short rental compared than before?
Well, thank you, Wolfgang. Certainly, it's not field of my expertise, but we were involved in a recent study done by the tourism agency of Hungary to assess the market effect of Airbnb. And certainly, Airbnb has an influence on the local residents by pushing up rental fees and prices of the flats. And now the pandemic, I think, and it's true in general, maybe gave a moment to all the stakeholders to assess market trends in the last years. Because when you are busy and things happening, you don't have time to really think of the right way of things should be going. So now it's under review. There will be some changes, but in Budapest, we had the problem with hotel capacity. So the air market and tourism market grew, basically the growth outpaced the hotel supply. So it was a good interim solution to have Airbnb, because otherwise Budapest would not have been able to welcome so many tourists in the last years. But now, I would not be in the position of a hotel developer now in Budapest, because all the projects have just been finished this year or last year. And now it will be a challenge for them to fill those rooms, but we are also working with airlines to bring customers to Budapest.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that, I would say, also looking at the time, so we are 15 minutes behind, but that's still okay. So that we finished the first panel. And again, thanks to all the participants. And I see in the chat that all your presentations and all your insights have been praised by many of the participants as being very helpful and insightful. So now we move on to maybe let me say also, yeah, if you have more questions, of course you're still we are happy if you write them down in the question and answer section, and we will try some of them. If you leave your email address, we will try even to answer some of them after the seminar is over. So saying that, so what we still have to come is a presentation by Rebecca Baer from Planet, talking about the very important topic of payments and value-added tax refunding and the new development there. And directly after that, we will have the second panel. And I welcome Ghazi, who just turned up, first time in video. Hi, Ghazi. So we are all here. And so don't go away. There will be a very interesting second panel following, where we will look from the supply side. So what is on our end as a host? How are we preparing for the new developments? And don't forget, also at the end, we have a lucky draw for 3 copies of the book. So therefore, it's over to you, Rebecca. Please tell us all about the latest on payment and cashless payment.
Hello, Wolfgang, and hello to our amazing audience today. Thank you so much for having me here and for giving me the chance to present a bit on the topic of mobile and digital payments. It has been very, very interesting to listen to all speakers before, and one topic which was commonly mentioned here was that China, the world and China is getting more and more digital. And what I will go through with you today is also, I think, quite interesting for answering or a part of answering the next question coming up when looking at the supply side. So what can the supply side do to prepare for the post-virus customers from China? And yes, so as already said, I hope, can you all see my screen? Just double checking if you can see my presentation. I see Anders nodding, so great. So I think you can. Wonderful.
Great.
Perfect. Okay. So, as we already mentioned, the world is globally getting more and more digital and more mobile, and China is by far leading the way when it comes to this. And we have seen a big rise of mobile wallets throughout the last years. Also, China leading the way here. There are expectations that by end of 2020, more than 90% of China's population will use their phone to pay, which is of course a huge number. Then there's another topic we have already talked about before. I remember Roger giving some really nice insights here and talking about experiences, what is expected in terms of experiences, and the expectations are definitely rising of retail experiences, of experiences abroad. And I just recently read, very interesting, that post COVID-19, more than 60% of Chinese consumers have higher expectations to retail experiences than they had before. So if we look at this, and you see here in 2019, already 86% of the Chinese population made at least one purchase with a mobile phone. That's amazing. You see, we have a lot of Asian countries here in the stats, and we find not a single European one. So this is definitely a movement coming very strongly coming from Asia, with China leading the way. So just let me move on to the next slide. What are we talking about when we are talking about Chinese mobile payment? I will keep this quite short because I think we have so many experts here on this call that I do not need to go very much into the details. Just quickly introduce, we have two major apps which Chinese use for mobile payment. This is on the one hand Alipay, the world's largest mobile payments platform. It's a product from Ant Financial, which is belongs to Alibaba. And Alipay is by now also really a lifestyle app with offering a huge marketing potential to merchants and businesses out there besides just the payment function. Then we have Wechat. I'd be very surprised if anyone on this call has not heard about Wechat before. So I will also keep this short. Wechat is a hybrid app with more than 1.2 billion active users, and it is a messenger and also offers mobile payment capabilities. And Wechat is becoming more and more popular also for mobile payments in China. Why am I talking to you about this today? Because I think everyone here on this call, we are all aligned, and we all have the same opinion. Tourism from China will be back for sure. And it is very important for all the businesses out there to be prepared. COVID-19 has dramatically fueled the demand for mobile payment. Why is that? We have already talked a lot about Chinese tourists expecting highest hygienic standards. Mobile payments are contactless. So this is not the tourists and not your staff needs to touch each other, and this is a very safe method of payments. And of course, it also matches the demand of experiences which Chinese tourists have. It is a common experience. It is common for them to use their preferred mobile payment methods in China, and so they also have this expectation when shopping at merchants abroad. Here you see that what are the benefits for you as a merchant, as a business, as a restaurant, as a hotel, when you offer mobile payments to your Chinese customers. This is a study conducted by Larsen in 2019, and you see that the payment method has a direct impact on the purchasing habit of Chinese overseas tourists, even more than product quality. Even though it is just 1%, it is 1% more important than the product quality or the price. And you see in the other step below, you see that 89% of Chinese tourists who were surveyed by Larsen said that they would shop and spend more if they had, if mobile payments, Chinese mobile payments would be accepted from the merchant, from the restaurant, and so on. So what does this mean for you? You can increase your revenues, you can drive footfall, and you can increase your customer satisfaction. And of course, this means repeat purchases and a very good customer experience. What are we offering as Planet? So we are supporting merchants, and we are providing mobile payment solutions for merchants, and we can find a solution that fits the need of every one of you. And what we are providing on top, we are not only providing the payments acceptance, we are actually providing a full service China solutions. does this mean? We can provide you the payments acceptance. We are also providing a Wechat cross-border e-commerce product, which gives merchants the possibility to do after sales with their Chinese customers, but also to right now, where the Chinese customer is not present, sell to them in a very easy solution without having to put up difficult cross-border e-commerce structures themselves. And what are we doing? We are also providing or equipping our partners with a valuable skill set to better serve their Chinese customers in the future. And we are doing this together with COTRI in terms of offering the China Tourism online training, which is a really fantastic tool for merchants to better understand and better cater to their Chinese customers. We are also providing the relevant market insights, so you understand your Chinese customers, you understand how their purchasing habits, and we then help you to create a tailored and your perfect marketing strategy around them. I'm a bit quick here, just a second. I want to show you very shortly in a nice video how a payment transaction with Alipay looks like. So just for everyone who might have not seen that before. And so let me share this very quick video with you at this point. So you see, this is the Android terminal a merchant can use. He just enters the amount of the sales and scans the Alipay QR code provided by the tourists. And in less than a minute, the purchase is done. No one needs to touch each other. No cards need to be displayed. No cash needs to be handled. So this is a very nice, safe, and quick transaction for all parties. So this was already it from my side. Just a very quick wrap up on this topic. Yeah, actually offering mobile payments is not an option, or should not be an option anymore for merchants, for restaurants, for hotels, but should be a standard, because expectations for digital payments are definitely or will definitely be higher post-COVID-19 than they have in the past. And yes, and why should this also matter for you? It can increase your revenues directly. And I think this is something where we all would be really happy to have this again. So thank you so much. Okay. And of course, what I also wanted to mention, if you want to learn more about this topic, please feel free to contact me. Please feel free to talk to me within LinkedIn, and be happy to give you more information on that.
Rebecca, thank you very much for that. And already I saw that in the Q&A, some people have asked if they can get the slides. And I think obviously you see the email address, Rebecca, there at planetpayment.com. I'm sure you will be happy to share the slides.
Perfect, of course. And also please feel free to add me on LinkedIn as well, and just reach out if you should have further questions to this.
Okay, so and also certainly I think this is the insight of everybody, and that it's not a question should I have it or not, but this is something where the Chinese customers, and I think even now after the virus more than before, they will just go somewhere else if you don't accept Alipay.